You know the feeling. We've all been there. You're just trying to enjoy your coffee, maybe walking through the park, and bam, all of a sudden you've got a front row seat to a very, very public makeout session. And you just feel awkward. But why? What is it about public displays of affection, PDA, that can make us so deeply uncomfortable?
Well, one Reddit user absolutely nailed it. They said PDA makes you feel like a background character in those people's date. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? That feeling of being an unwilling audience, a spectator to a moment that feels like it should be private. So let's dig into that visceral reaction. The original poster on Reddit, they didn't mince words. They called PDA gross and trashy, and they basically argued that nobody really likes seeing it. Now that's a pretty strong take, but let's be honest, it's a feeling a lot of us have probably had at some point. But here's where it gets complicated. As a discussion went on, it got really clear that not everyone even means the same thing when they say PDA. I mean, is holding hands really the same thing as a full-on makeout session in the middle of a shopping mall? Of course not. And this shows that PDA isn't just one thing. It's this huge spectrum. And you can pretty much split it down the middle. On one side, you've got the stuff that most people are totally fine with, holding hands, a little hug, a quick peck on the cheek. But on the other side, you have the things that cause that discomfort, the intense kissing, the handsy touching, anything that feels like it's crossing some invisible line. And yeah, that line is different for everyone, but it is definitely there.
Okay, so now let's flip this whole thing on its head. Get ready for a major shift in perspective. What if the problem isn't them? What if it's you? The conversation took this really fascinating turn when people started to suggest that maybe, just maybe, our discomfort says more about us than it does about the couple. This comment right here, this was the game changer. It actually earned a delta, which on that particular subreddit is a big deal. It means it completely changed the original poster's mind. And look at how it reframes the whole debate. Should other people have to change their totally harmless behavior just because you feel uncomfortable? Wow. All of a sudden, the focus wasn't on judging the couple anymore. It was about understanding our own reaction. So, okay, why do we feel this way? Well, the psychology is pretty layered. That whole background character feeling, it's about having the focus suddenly and kind of jarringly ripped away from you. Research also shows that younger people, especially those between 18 and 24, are more likely to see PDA and feel a pang of loneliness or jealousy. And get this, our upbringing plays a huge role. Studies show that people who grew up in homes with a lot of conflict tend to be more uncomfortable with public affection as adults. But this isn't just about our personal psychology. It's also deeply tied to culture. That gut feeling of, ooh, that's wrong, that's not some universal truth. It's a cultural script we've been taught. So let's take a quick trip around the globe and see just how different the rules of public love can be. And right off the bat, that original idea that no one likes it just gets completely blown out of the water. Check this out. A survey found that 58% of Australians think open-mouth kissing in public is totally fine. That one statistic alone shows you just how wildly different opinions can be. And the differences are just stark. I mean, in parts of South America or in France, public passion is just part of the scenery. No big deal. But in some parts of the Middle East, a British couple was actually jailed for kissing in a restaurant. In India, a public kiss can be legally defined as obscene. At the University of Zimbabwe, it could get you expelled. So what's totally normal in one place is literally a crime in another. All right, so we've talked about our reactions and cultural rules, but what about the couple themselves? What's going on with them? It's time to debunk some common myths about what that public kiss is really saying. Okay, here's the first big myth we all kind of believe. A couple that's all over each other in public must be so happy, so secure, right? Well, psychologists say the reality can be the exact opposite. Sometimes all that over-the-top PDA isn't a sign of security at all. It can actually be a sign of deep insecurity in the relationship. So why put on the show? Well, it can be a way of sending a public message, almost like marking your territory to signal commitment. Or it might be a way to cover up some underlying fears about the relationship's stability. And this is pretty interesting. One study found that for some men, PDA drops off significantly after they get married. It's almost as if the wedding ring takes over the job of signaling this person is taken. And then you've got the flip side, the opposite myth. We see a quiet couple that isn't all touchy-feely in public, and we automatically assume there's trouble in paradise, that they must be on the rocks. But again, the reality is way more complicated than that.
According to the experts, there are two really common reasons a couple might not engage in PDA, and neither of them has anything to do with a lack of love. First, some people are just private and they prefer to keep those moments for themselves, behind closed doors. And second, a lot of people just grew up in families where public affection wasn't the norm. It wasn't encouraged, so it just doesn't come naturally to them. It's not a red flag, it's just a different style. So, in that split second when we see a kiss, how does our brain process all of this? Our personal feelings, our cultural programming, their potential psychology? Well, it turns out we're all constantly running this incredibly complex social code in our heads, following a whole set of unwritten rules we don't even think about. The key concept here is something called social norms. Researchers define these as the unwritten rules for what's considered acceptable behavior in a society. And they're not about achieving some kind of goal, right? It's not like making a sale or winning a game. Instead, they're all about upholding these shared values we all kind of agree on, like dignity, politeness, and respect. And we judge everything we see against these invisible rules. There's a model that actually simplifies this into 4 basic steps. Step 1, you perceive the act. You see the kiss. Step 2, your brain instantly applies your culture's rules, your social script. Step 3, you factor in the context. I mean, a kiss at a wedding is very different from a kiss in the produce aisle at Walmart, right? And finally, step 4, your brain crunches all that data and spits out a feeling. That flash of awkwardness or annoyance, it's not random. It's a high-speed social calculation. So the next time you see that couple kissing in public, what are you really looking at? Is it a sign of true love, a performance masking insecurity, or is it just two people operating on a completely different cultural code than yours? That awkward feeling is really just the tip of a giant iceberg, connecting your own personal history to the huge unwritten rules of our social world. So maybe the real question isn't what their kiss means about them, but what your reaction to it means about you.